Like when you get something off your chest, right? And you're like, oh, I'm not holding that weight anymore, because literally it's a weight. It's an energetic weight that we're holding on to. So the process is AAA. It's like stop, drop, and roll. Awareness, acknowledgement, action. The problem is people get either stuck in the awareness, right? And then it spirals out of control and you become like the worst person in your own mind. But if we block that feeling, and typically men will just compress it and push it down and repress it, it's like a bunch of crap getting built up and nothing can get through. Energy is emotion, energy, emotion. I'm sure everyone says that, and that's true. We need to move the energy. And the challenge is we get stuck in judging it. Like, I'm bad, I'm wrong for feeling the feelings that I'm feeling. What would people think of me if they knew I felt this way? These are the stories. This is not only my story, this is a story I hear from pretty much 99% of the men I work with. Mm-hmm. Again, we have to create communities and places that are safe and non-judgmental, where people can find their people to do that work. That's really what it comes down to as far as the model in the world and the new model of the world. But the acknowledgement piece is where the alchemical process takes place. And then on the other side of that, whatever the action is, the last A, whatever the thing you need to do, it's just clear. It's just a knowing. Because most men get stuck in their head trying to figure it out. What do I have to do here? I need to figure this out. How many times have you heard that from a client? I just got to figure this out. You ain't figuring out nothing. There's nothing to figure out. And ultimately, how it shows up in your life is way better than how you would have done it anyway. That's the magic. That's the beauty that shows up. That's the, our connection to God, universal spirit, however you describe it. But there's an energy that when we plug into that, the story is greater than we ever could have written. When you look back on your life and you see how everything went a certain way, it's like the most beautifully crafted novel. That's the poetry of life. And only in reflection, we get to say, wow, like that thing that was seemingly so terrible, that thing I never wanted to feel, the thing I withheld for so long, I finally got to feel, and I felt free afterwards. I felt like, like when you get something off your chest, right? And you're like, oh, I'm not holding that weight anymore, because literally it's a weight. It's an energetic weight that we're holding on to. So the process is AAA. It's like stop, drop, and roll. Awareness, acknowledgement, action. The problem is people get either stuck in the awareness, right? And then it spirals out of control and you become like the worst person in your own mind, or you avoid it or try to fix it. And if you just feel it, I promise you, it's not going to last that long. Emotions are meant to last seconds, right? If you're feeling an emotion longer than a minute, now it's your story about the emotion. If I asked you to be angry for a full minute, you'd be exhausted afterwards. But if you tap into that for a moment authentically, everything shifts.
Yeah, it's
also the hardest place to get men up to.
For sure. It's such a good reminder because, to your point about having a good cry, it's like, most of the time, other than like my dad's passing or something, it's like 5 minutes, max of a good cry is all I've needed. And I go, all right, like, looks like I'm done with that. Like, what's next? And you just feel so much clearer and cleaner. But we make it up in our head that it's like, if I go into this, men don't cry. If I feel into this, I'll never climb out of it. If I stare too long into the abyss, I'll fall in, so to speak. And it's like, no, the truth is that you have to feel these things in order to free yourself up. So this is
in my chiropractic office, I would say all the time, you got to feel it to heal it. That's it.
Well, I was just going to say, I would love to hear about the magician and the king as well, just to give to round that out. And then maybe I definitely have some more questions for you, but let's do it. Let's round that out real quick, if you don't mind.
I would love to. Actually, in our journey in the Ignite, our year-long program, we're in the magician energy right now.
Fun.
We're about 2.5 weeks out from our next immersion, which are themed after the archetypes. This is our magician energies immersion coming up. So we're full in it right now. It's beautiful. We are in the age of the magician culturally. The magician is the archetype of technology and being able to see the bigger field, and really is the archetype that sort of oversees all of the other archetypes. It's the part of you that sees the big picture of what's going on. It's the part of you that organizes. It's the part of you that we call upon in a crisis, how it gets out of situations, how maybe it's a big business deal and how you're organizing that. That's all your magician energy, how you're spinning all the different plates and how all the pieces fit together, and your map and your models of the world and your business. That's your magician. And it's connected to the energy beyond the form. So again, like magic, it's not something we necessarily see in the 3D world, right? It's almost like we kind of like relax our eyes and we're seeing the subconscious. When you see like that picture behind the picture, you remember those things where that's like the number behind the thing. And it's almost like you have to soften your gaze of life and tune in to like, what's really going on here? Like you're asking different questions, which the magician requires that connection both to the cortical centers and the heart, because it's using the lover and the feeling along with its higher cortical centers, which is more the warrior and the mind, to organize information. Right. So we are very much in the season, or in the cultural season of the magician. Everything with entrepreneurship and technology and social media platforms and all the amazing technologies and robotics, and what they're used for, that we'll see. But the technology in and of itself is extraordinary right now, and the way right now that you and I are able to be connected. So as a man, we are using this magician energy all day long, how we're organizing our life, how we're choosing to speak. It's like playing the chess, right? You're always looking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of how to organize your life, as opposed, again, to reacting to life. Right. So the magician in its shadow way can show up either as a trickster and a manipulator and being slippery. It could show up on the other end in the passive pole as being like the saboteur of your own life. How you sort of, people like they always take themselves out, or they maybe they make a step forward and they always seem to lose it, or get stuck in their head, and what we call analysis paralysis, right? Where you just get stuck in the own loops of thoughts. And so these are where the shadow magician will show up. A lot of times we'll show up around money and finances for people, where they're manipulative with money, or they're sneaky with money, or they don't know how to handle money, because money has that energetic to it where everyone just wants it, right? That's a problem. So in business, this can show up a lot. Maybe there's a lot of withholding of information because you want to get the deal done. So this is a very this is a shadow that really needs to be in our awareness, in the forefront, because it's powerful, and you're working with forces unseen, and you have to, in a sense, respect that. Right? We are swimming in this etheric field of energy, and if we're not reverent to it, karma happens.
That's a good one. Karma happens. I like this, and this is one of the archetypes I feel most connected to. Personally, I
Most
feel
entrepreneurs I've met, this is because they see the field, they see what others haven't seen, and they're bringing something that hasn't existed before to the marketplace.
Yeah,
it's like the stage that goes off into the cave and do the work that no one else is willing to do for years to bring it back, so you can receive this gift and the wisdom. That's what a magician truly does.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I can also relate to the shadows. At certain points, I've had to do a lot of work on those, but I like when I hear magician, I'm like, yeah, I kind of relate to that. Kind of being able to pull a rabbit out of the hat. A lot of times as an entrepreneur, these other ones, I don't know if I'd give myself such glowing remarks, to be honest. Well, tell me about the king. That way I can
here we
analyze
go.
that one too.
Totally. So it's my belief that every man is destined to live his kingship, and your kingship, it's a ship that we're on that you're the captain of for a little while. Unfortunately, when people think king, they think like they're on this throne and they're infallible and everyone should bow to them, right? And that's really maybe historically how we've seen kings, but it's really about being the king in your own life. And for me, that's family. For me, that's children. How I am supporting my community. And the king is the one that has the legacy, has sovereignty, and is living by a code, and is having a vision for his lands. And how it relates to a man in his life is that when there's chaos in your life, there's chaos in your kingdom. And often that you will then show up as a tyrant. That's the shadow of the king, where you're just using brute force to rule because really there's some deep insecurities that are happening. So the king in his fullness is about holding the tone and the energy for his kingdom so the lands can flourish and that people can thrive in his kingdom, and about giving blessing. A king, it's not about what you give, but it's about, it's not about what you get, but it's about what you give. It's about giving your blessing. Like when you mentor someone, when you guide someone, you think of coaches classically, like a baseball coach that mentors a young kid, and he's passing along that gift. He's passing along that wisdom that he's learned in his life. He's making the world, quote unquote, a better place for the next generation. To me, that's truly what a king is. And to be able to embody that on a daily basis. And I think people, especially, I'm 44 years old, so people in their 30s that I work with, it's like they're just starting to tune into like, wow, like what's my legacy? Like what am I really here for? And that's the question we ultimately are asking ourselves, I think, is why am I here on this planet at this time? What am I really here to do? It's not like how much can I achieve or how much money I can make or all of those things, but like truly like, what can I give back? You look at every successful person, they've made the millions, the billions, whatever. They've grown all these companies, all these things, and ultimately they want to give back. So I would suggest if we start doing that now, the amount of exchange of abundance that occurs is just unlimited. It's not once I get here, then I'll have that. And that's a part that comes into integrating all of the different archetypes and being able to have that awareness and experience them on a daily basis. I was listening to a Jordan Peterson thing the other day where he said 80% of your happiness is how your wife looks at you when you walk in the door. And I was like, that's so true. Because I can care less what anyone else thinks of me. I can care less what metric in the culture I've achieved. But when I cross over that threshold of my home, my personal kingdom, and I see a thriving, happy family where, man, I'm crying at dinner like 2 to 3 nights a week when we share what made our heart happy. Like I let it all out. I wear it on my sleeve, and I'm modeling that for my child. And he feels safe in the world because he knows what true masculinity is. And that's what's been under attack in our culture. Men don't. What are men these days? What are women these days? I mean, that's a whole conversation now. Like that's actually a conversation. So we're redefining or just defining what it is naturally. I'm not trying to redefine anything. We're just going back to what's true, what's natural. As a chiropractor, philosophically, it's things that are natural. That's all this. My journey started with was I'm just going to follow what's natural. Man, that'll get you into a lot of trouble, by the way.